I've had a month off, I'm back, and we're going to be once again working on this 4x4 Nova build. So in the previous few videos, we cut the boot floor out of this Nova, made some rear chassis legs, a rear turret, and we've also fitted Transit Mark 7 wheel arches. And in today's episode, I want to continue that on this side. So I basically want to duplicate what I've already done on this side. But before we can do that, I want to show you something. So although the engine side of things is months and months off, I want to make this C20LET a little bit more modern and a little bit more reliable. And I also want to make it quite serviceable. So what I've opted for is an Aston VXR engine loom. Now this has been modified so it can run on a Z20LET management, and it plugs into a modified Z20LET loom. So this is a Mark 5 Aston VXR, this is a Mark 4 Aston GSI. They're compatible with each other, and it's just a few simple wires to connect it up and make it run, similar to what a C20XE would be, or a C20LET like it already has. So we're going to fit this onto the C20LET, and we're going to modify it so it runs newer sensors. It's going to make it more reliable, much easier to get the parts, and the Brucey bonus of it all is I can sell all my original C20LET management, which is running really good at the minute, sell it all. It's going to pay for this, plus leave me a few quid in the bank. So I just want to talk through what we've got here. So this is the Aston GSI, the Mark 4 loom, which has been modified so it can pretty much fit anything. The original mobiliser connects up to it, which I've got. I used the Aston Z20LET ECU, but it's got a VXR map on it. And the cool thing about this is it's really easy to fit, plus you can run stuff like your fan off it, and you've got the OBD port, so you can plug into it with a modern OBD scanner and read the fault codes really easily, which I really like. So to get it all running, it's actually really simple. You've got to connect this to the ignition feed. That red wire goes to the fan live. You don't have to use that, but I'm choosing to use it. This red wire here goes to the fuel pump, and as you can see, everything is labelled just how we want it to be. This blue wire goes to your tacho. Again, you don't need that, so that's your rev counter. This orange wire goes to the ignition. The brown and white one goes to engine management light. You've got a thick red one here which goes to your battery. And for your immobiliser, you've got an earth and another ignition feed. So it's pretty much that simple to connect it up. Not much harder than a C20LET or C20XE. So it's a much newer setup. It's going to be much more reliable. And if something like the airflow meter fails, I can go and buy a brand new Bosch one for about 60 quid. You can't get many parts for the original C20LET now, particularly the airflow meters. Can't get them anymore. The new old stock, and when you do find them, they're like 600 quid. So this is going to be, I think, a godsend in the future. So I bought all this lot from a gentleman called Jabba. Now he is well known in the Vauxhall community. If you're interested in buying some of these, hit him up, find him on Facebook, message me, I can give you his details. The looms are really nicely made. They're finished in cloth tape. He solders all the connections nicely and uses the heat shrink with the glue in it. It does a nice finish. It's as good as factory as you can kind of get. Looks nice and tidy, and yeah, from what I can see of this so far, I'd highly recommend his services. So if you want to fit a 2 litre turbo engine to an Nova and you want to go down a more modern route, Z20LETs and Z20LEHs, so VXR and GSI engines are much more attainable now, much more easier to get and a lot cheaper, and this stuff is pretty much plug and play. It's really simple. So if you're interested in buying one, let me know and I'll pass you the details on. If not, search Jabber on Facebook, you should find him. Now, obviously, I've done this in kind of a hard way. A lot of people are probably going to be saying to me, you should use standalone management. It's a lot easier. Yes, I kind of agree with you. It is a lot easier. But I like this because it's got an OBD. I can get sensors easily. And yeah, I don't know. I just want to go with this option. It's a bit different. But because I want to go with this option, I have made things difficult because, for example, the original throttle body isn't going to work. I'm going to have to modify my inlet manifold, which I want to do anyway. I want to make a big plenum inlet manifold. I'm going to have to modify it to fit this throttle body. I've also got to modify the head, I believe, to fit this coil pack, and I've got to use all the sensors from a Z20LET engine on this C20LET. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit more difficult than normal, but I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do it on the way. It has been done before, so it must be possible, so stay tuned. And while we're on the topic of sensors, I still need quite a lot of sensors for this engine. So I've got a coil pack, I've got a throttle body, I've got a crank sensor. I still need a C20XE cam sensor. I need a knock sensor, I believe. I need an 80mm airflow meter. Now I'm happy to buy a new one of them. I need a coolant temperature sensor. Again, I'm happy to buy a new one of them. I basically need every sensor. So if you know of any, if you know of an old Z20LET engine what's broken, for example, I don't know, throwing a rod out, anything like that, and they want to sell it to me cheap, or they want to donate some parts to the channel, that would be very much appreciated. Because as you can imagine, this build's going to cost a lot of money. And if I'm honest, if I wasn't filming it, I probably wouldn't be going to this level of detail. So if you want to help me, get in touch, try and hook me up with some sensors, I'd very much appreciate that. Right, anyway, let's crack on with some welding and get some more of this car built. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is cut this all the way across like I have done on this side already. And then I'm going to do this in a slightly different way. So I'm going to start with the chassis legs because I want to make it symmetrical and then make the turret. Whereas last time I did the turret first and then built the chassis legs. So I start with them, and I can also make a cross member that goes across the two, and I can also triangulate this and make it nice and strong. Right, let's get the grinder out. So start by trimming off the rest of the original floor. Now, I've said before, I didn't really need to cut this much out. There was quite a lot of rot on the back end of this car, so doing so is getting rid of one of the problems, I guess. Plus, I can make it a lot stronger and hopefully make it look pretty good too. Right, so now the other side's cut out, I want to measure this side, start marking up exactly where I want to fit the chassis leg on this side. Now, this could seem quite a daunting job, and I do understand that, but I'm kind of breaking it down into simple ways of doing things. So I'm just using literally a steel ruler and a tape measure to measure everything side by side, cross-reference things. I've got lots of points which I can measure from, which I know are set and solid. And then I take my time, marking everything up, measuring, marking, measuring, until I get it bang on in the right place, and then I'm happy. I did exactly the same thing on the outside, and as you can see here, there's the line where the two panels join. This is symmetrical on and over, so I can measure exactly from there, and if I get it exactly to the mill, I know it's bang on perfect. So I cap the end of the chassis leg just like I did on the other side and weld it into place. So just tack it on to start off with, just to make sure it's in exactly the right place. I recheck all the measurements and then I buzz it up properly. As you can see, I'm a bit dirty. I've had a couple of hours off camera making this because I didn't want to repeat myself. I made this in a previous episode, but this one I did slightly different because I made it on the floor. I didn't make it on the car. Now, what I've done, I've made an exact replica of this, but it's a mirror reverse of it essentially. So exactly the same, but opposite way around. So that's going to go on this side. I still need to drill a hole in the top, which we're going to do next. If you want to see how I made this, check out my other videos. You'll see a video where I made the first one. Like I said, I don't like repeating myself too much, so I hope that helps. And while we're on the topic of helping, if you want to help me out, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Please like the video, leave a little comment to say where you're from, for example. It helps the channel grow. It gives me a little bit of money to put into these projects and keep making content for you guys. And there we go, that's the offside strut tower made and ready to be welded onto the car. Right, so it's been a couple of weeks since I've done any filming. My daughter is now here. As you can imagine, life's been very hectic, but I've got a couple of hours, so I thought I'd come in the garage. Right, since I last did some filming, I have made these strut top plates. And that's them off. As you can see, they're 3mm thick, nice and sturdy, and they're going to really help reinforce it, hopefully. They've been cut out in the lathe, and they're basically designed to go on top of the strut tower, and I'm going to weld a strut brace to it. So I'm going to make a strut brace off this. So it's just a little bit of extra reinforcement. It's going to make the back end a little bit stronger and just make the top of this a little bit stronger. So I have made them, cut them out, drilled them. Right, so where were we on the car? Well, this is all being cleaned back, dressed back. If you remember from the other side, I cut this bit out here and added some plate. Now, I wasn't 100% happy with the look of that. I keep looking at it thinking I can do better. So I'm going to cut this side out today, and I'm going to do it slightly differently. Instead of just having a plate go to here, I think I'm going to make it go to here to fill all this section in and make it look a bit neater. So this is the other side, and as you can see, it is nice and strong. This is going to be completely covered, so it doesn't really matter, but this is just bothering me this little bit. So I'm going to try and fill this section in, and when I do the other side, I'm going to do that from the start, I think. Right, let's get on with filling this in. So I start by tracing the rough shape onto a bit of old cardboard I found in the bin. Then I cut a bit out, make sure it fits, and keep tracing it until I'm happy with the fitment. This can be quite time consuming, but it's definitely worth doing properly because it will give you a much better finish. So there we go, I'm much happy with that now. It fits a lot better, follows all the contours nicely. I'm going to cut it out of 2mm steel, weld it all in. Then I'm going to repeat the process on the other side, but I'll just use the back piece because this is kind of already done. Smooth it in and try and make them look as similar as I can. I use the fine sharpie to trace around the template, and then I cut it out roughly with an angle grinder and a 1mm cutting disc. And then the edges I go around with a grinding disc just to get the contours and the curves as close as I can. And there we go, one panel, 2mm thick. It kind of goes in. Something along the lines of that. As you can see, it fits around the contours nicely here. I'm just going to paddle beat this area here flat, just to make it a bit easier for me. Yeah, happy with that. It's a 2mm thick steel. It's actually quite thick for sheet work. However, I'm using it because this is going to be a structural area. The strut top's going to be welded to this, and I need it to be nice and strong. I don't want it to flex. So there we go, that's cleaned up. I've panel beated this area flat. I've also painted the back of this area here with some primer, drilled a couple of holes in it, drilled some holes in here so I can spot weld or plug weld it in. I'm going to let this dry now and I can weld it into place. So like I said, I just start by giving it a few tacks in the nice flat areas, and I use the grips to slowly manipulate the panel into shape, followed by hammer and dolly. And again, just keep tacking it as I go along until I'm happy with the final finish. Then I start buzzing it up. Now with this, I'm just going to stitch weld it like I would do on the front of a cross member. It is spot welded as well, so I think this is adequate. It's far stronger than a factory job would be. So that's the inner panel, cleaned up, dressed back and primed. Now I'm a lot happy with it. I'm going to make the other side now look like that, but I'm going to do that off camera because I don't want to repeat myself. I'm going to wrap the video up here. Now it's probably not where I wanted to be. Ideally I wanted to kind of get this side a bit more done, but I'm time limited and I'm conscious that I haven't had a video out for a few weeks on this car, so I just wanted to keep you guys going and show you that there is still work going on, although it has slowed down a little bit. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, please leave a comment, and if you haven't, please subscribe. Stay tuned for more. See you later. Bye bye.